Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the daily market outlook for futures and Forex for trading on 11/9/16. This is where we take a look at our big six markets between the futures and the Forex markets, and the main goal of the outlook is to create a plan for tomorrow so that we can be as prepared as possible for tomorrow's price action. Now, the reason I chuckle a little bit is because tomorrow is the day after Election Day, so it may be a little bit funky. We have to be a little careful going into tomorrow's price action. So play it safe, make sure that you have everything on lock, trade your plan, make a plan if you don't have a plan, and make sure to follow your rules. So first of all, before we jump into the big six, make sure to jump on over to slingshotfutures.com, scroll down just underneath the first picture on the front of the page, and click Join the Daily Outlook newsletter so you can make sure that you never miss when these come out. You can be added to our mailing list, and we'll mail you about every single time these come out, so you won't miss it, and you'll be ahead of the curve of when everyone else finds out. Now, along with the big six, the first one that we're going to take a look at is gold. Now, when it comes to gold, so far we have a very aggressive drop lower off of the highs. It was a strong bullish move, and it was completely shut down at around 11 o'clock and collapsed back down to the lows. Now, it's very obvious that the bears own this market currently, but we are finding a slight little range down here. We are at the bottom of potential rising support, and there is also a possible very weak slight angle to the upside there between those two lows. Now, a lot of times when you get that slight angle, you'll see it break through the other side. The bulls had enough strength to defend the low, albeit not very well, but they defended the low. So a lot of times you'll see them come back to the highs and they'll break through the high with a little bit of a push. Now, that being said, so far we're coming off of a double top, so that does show that the sellers are defending the highs as much as the buyers are defending the lows as far as the market's concerned. So in terms of balance, we're pretty balanced right now. We're looking for the buyers to buy low, we're looking for the sellers to sell high, but sellers have the much larger kind of focus, right? We have a big drop lower, sellers are going to want to sell into it to at least attempt to get a new low. Now, in terms of the overall movement that we have, given this kind of back and forth in the double top move, if we can break underneath this level of support, the major seller targets are going to be down at 73.1 and 71.6. And if they carry on and they just completely fall apart, we also have the final seller's objective down at 1266.9. And that could also be the potential area for a bullish reversal. But until we get there, it's going to be hard to say. Now, what I would really like to see, in all honesty, is a nice bounce to the upside, see the buyers try to come in, and then fail, right? And that failure would spark a nice clue to the downside. An area of interest to sell into if you're looking for a slightly more aggressive way in would simply be selling between 79.3 and 80.3. That area looks like a beautiful location to become a seller and start scaling into downward positions. But if we can find some buyer failure, we may not be able to make it all the way up to that area before finding a push down. There is a nice bearish channel working its way lower. Now they're battling over who owns it. Do the bulls own the bottom of the wedge, or do the bears own the bearish channel? Because of the bearish channel going with the larger trend, I would love to see a fake break of the highs, strong bull candle even, to trigger in and trap buyers, and then shove right back down to finish off those objectives. So looking short on gold, but not quite yet. We need a little more confirmation before we start running after those targets below. For crude oil, we're cycling off of a major channel high drawn off of the lows, and this is a multi-day channel. The highs held very, very well, and they have since collapsed all the way down to the lows of the intermediary move. This is where we found a pause before, and we're right back in that area, and we found another pause, right? Now, this pause ended up being somewhat of a pennant, kind of just a spike and wedge, where it spiked down, wedged out, broke back down again. And the overall measured move of that drop lower from A to B equaling C to D is at 44.64, and that is a large short-term seller objective. Now we're cycling right now off of 44.71, which is the major sell side target from the sellers who've been selling since all the way up here. After that, though, the next big objective would be back to the channel lows and into the area of support between 44.52 down to 44.41. Now we're already very far down, so it's going to be a difficult sell all the way down here, especially since we're hovering right around objective areas. I would much rather see them break down, pull back, find a selling opportunity either around a retest of the wedge, right? Maybe it comes in around here, or maybe they just find some resistance off of that prior swing low before the breakdown at around 44.79 or so. But either way, we're too far down to become sellers right now. We need a better move up before we can start considering it. So this area between 79 up to 90 or so would be a nice area to find some continuation selling back to the downside if they don't finish the targets now. So looking to sell on crude oil, but again, just like gold, not quite yet. We're a little too far down for me to want to sell down here. Now, in terms of the S&P, very strong overall movement to the upside. We had a beautiful run followed by a nice pullback. And that pullback couldn't even pull back to fill a lot of the gapping that formed on the way up here. So with that gapping that formed on the way up, we have a major area of interest. Not only is it the low of this little kind of pullback here, 2133.50, down to 21.31 quarter, but also looking for even possibly a slightly lower dip before we find support. Either way, though, the major bull target is up at 21.43.50, and that's right now where every buyer on the planet has their eyes set on, just coming back to the highs. Now, you'll notice that major bull target isn't very far above the high of day. A lot of times when you get that, they'll poke their head above the high of day, it'll form all wick up there, and then completely fall apart, and sometimes even close bearish, showing a sign of maybe bearish continuation to the downside. So right now, I'm assuming that buyers are scaling into the move. It makes sense for them to be scaling into the move. Even on a deeper pullback, it makes sense for them to be scaling into the move. Now the major objective is pretty much right at the high of day, so that is the final target before we start finding a possible top to this move going into election day. So right now, looking to be a buyer, this is a pretty good area to become a buyer. In all honesty, I would like to see maybe a fake break of the lows of that possible wedge, tap into that 33.5 to 31 quarter area, find a buy area off of that for a bounce back up to finish off that major bull target. So that'll take care of the futures market. Let's jump on over to the Forex. The first one on the list, the EURUSD. Now, the EURUSD, we have some major bearish pressure so far. We've been cycling down aggressively and getting more and more aggressive. This initial move down from about 3 o'clock in the morning until about 8 was kind of grindy. There was a lot of back and forth. And then when they dropped the next time at around noon, it was a very decisive drop lower. There was no questioning who owned the market. The bears obviously own it, and they are very aggressive in pushing down. Now, the move down that we're seeing at the moment, we're cycling off of a major area of resistance here, 10.345 to 10.314. We may have already missed that boat. Right, so what I would really like to see now, given that it's already had a good chunk of the move, is just a snap pullback to around 10.243 to sell into the move and drive the market back down to finish off that major bear objective. Now, we may have some more aggressive entries. Right now, they have that little bitty swing high right there, also at the moving average, and that also coincides with the swing lows prior. That area at 10.202 might not be a bad place to start looking to scale in as well, but 243 has my eye much more and will have my attention. So, overall objective is still short. Would love to sell, but we're a little too far down right now. I need to get better pricing here on the euro. Looking at the pound dollar is cycling off of the highs of resistance very, very well, coming off the top of the channel. Beautiful rejection off of that area, and again, a very decisive drop lower. Now, this drop lower that we're seeing here, it's kind of the same as the euro. We want to be looking for selling opportunity. Obviously, sellers are taking profit at rising support, but it doesn't look like they're really done yet. They became kind of stuck at that low, showing that the sellers still have confidence, and they may find a second push. We're really far down to the bottom, though. It's very difficult to sell this far down and expect it to go further. What I would much rather do, very similar to the euro, wait for a pullback to an area of interest, find it at the swing low here. That also coincides with a cluster back here, the swing low back here, a little bit of resistance here, support there, resistance there. That entire line around 23,850 may be a beautiful location if they come back to find selling pressure to hit it, and then drop back down to finish the move off to the lows. So that's what we're looking for right now in the pound dollar. Again, we're a little too low to be sellers. I would much rather see a slight pullback and then sell into that pullback. And then we've got the dollar yen, the bullish counterpart to all of our currencies. We are getting progressively more aggressive. We have a low and then it starts angling higher to the next low, and then it angles higher to the next low, and that forms kind of a fan, right? You can sort of see it fanning its way up. That's usually more of a sign of short-term strength, but long-term exhaustion. The buyers are putting too much emphasis forward without enough sustainability. We've gone too far too fast, and you usually end up going into a range, and we just kind of top out for a little while. Now, this isn't a place where the sellers are going to say, yep, I'm going to sell here, and we're going to dump this market back down. Probably not. More likely than not, any big pullback, especially if it's fast, cough, 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 will be bought back up because the buyers are going to see that as very cheap pricing comparative to the rest of the move. So if we can get a pullback down to 104.970 to 921, even below that would be a phenomenal place to start looking to become a buyer to finish off the major bull objective just above us at 105.272. Now, one caveat to this. We do have an area of resistance above us. We're starting to form a little bit of the top of a wedge. We have a high, a lower high that tried reversing, failed, starting to form a wedge bottom here as well. Lower high once again, and not doing so well. We're getting stuck inside here. Now, we also have the rising area of support that they're pinging off of, and if it does break down, they're probably just going to find the next area of support, which would be the next wedge low. So in terms of breaking down, it might not be that bad. Get a nice breakdown, trap the sellers in, and then shove it right back in their face to hit that major bull objective at 105.272. So at the moment, you know, if we just rocket higher, we break out to the upside, you may be able to find a short-term little breakout pullback to finish the job, but that is taking away a lot of the opportunity of the trade. I would much rather see them fake break low into the area of interest, buy into it, and push the market back up in towards the objective at 105.272. So looking to become a buyer on the dollar yen, but we need to wait a little bit until we get some more confirmation. Otherwise, there's just not really much reason to get into the trade. There's not room for profitability. So that's the overall market outlook. Make sure to subscribe to the newsletter email list so you know ahead of time when this comes out and you can be prepared for the next day. And also make sure every single morning to log on to Slingshot Futures. Check out the morning levels that we post at the bottom for the futures market so you know all of the big levels of support and resistance that we are keeping our eye on for that day. As always, hopefully this finds you well. Make sure, again, I can't say it enough, be safe tomorrow, especially if you're trading into tonight's session. It may get a little bit crazy with the elections around the corner, and tomorrow, the day after elections, can always be kind of messy as well. So just be careful going into the rest of this week. It could be a fun one. Outside of that, though, make a plan, trade a plan, follow your rules, and you will do just fine. Until the next time, have a good one.